My family cut contact with me 5 years ago after a fight with my younger brother. Now they want me to come back, but I'm having doubts about it. My family pretty much cut all ties with me at the end of 2015. Things had been a bit turbulent for a while. But when I went over to my parents' house for Christmas in 2015, I got very drunk one night and got into an argument with my younger brother, which ended up turning physical. I was 19 at the time, he would have been 15, and he came out of it pretty badly. Without going into massive detail, he had said something which struck a nerve. I won't say what because it's quite personal and not really relevant here, and I ended up injuring him quite badly. There was a question of potentially involving the police, but nothing ever happened in regards to that. In the end, they all just told me they wanted nothing to do with me anymore, which is fair enough. I was completely in the wrong, and they were absolutely right to want to cut me off. I'm not complaining about that in the slightest. I had already moved out by that stage, so it wasn't a case of kicking me out. It was more just telling me to never come back. Again, I can't blame them for this at all, and would be surprised if you could either. This post isn't about me complaining about being cut off, or pretending that I didn't deserve it, because I did. And I'm not trying to play the victim here. I genuinely regret what I did, and I have spent time trying to self-improve in the wake of it. It was quite difficult for me to come to terms with this for the first year or so afterwards. The only person in my family I had any contact with was my mom. We never really spoke in depth, just small updates, wishing each other happy birthday and things like that. Honestly, though, after that first year, things have gotten so much better for me. I stopped drinking, which was the root of a lot of my problems. I got my head down and ended up doing very well at uni. I've now got a job that I love, and I've been with my girlfriend for the best part of 4 years, and things are absolutely great. To be brutally honest, I don't miss my family. My relationship with them hadn't been great for a while before the fight, and as far as I was concerned, I didn't miss them, and they didn't miss me. And being on a non-contact basis with all of them, apart from occasional contact with my mom, was for the better. However, over the last few months, my mom began messaging me much more frequently and asking more personal questions about my life, my work, my relationship, and so on. I thought it was just boredom on her part, but she maintained it for a while and began to introduce the idea of me coming back to visit her at some point, which I always shrugged off. She started to persist with it, and then yesterday it all came to a head when she added me to a WhatsApp group chat with the rest of the family. I was then told how they had all come to a family decision that 5 years was enough, that my brother had found it in his heart to forgive me for what happened, and that they wanted me to come over at some point to catch up on lost time. These are all quotes from what they sent me. I didn't say much. I just said I wanted time to think. I'm quite torn on this now. Part of me feels like I am obliged to go along with it. They cut contact with me because of my own actions, and if my brother's forgiven me and wants to reestablish contact with me, then it's my duty to do so. On the other hand, I feel like since contact was cut, my life improved a lot. My relationship with them had been on a downward slope for a fair bit of time beforehand, and I just haven't found myself missing any of it. That's why I'm asking for advice. Would you say that I'm obliged to go and reestablish contact because it was my fault that contact was cut? Or do you think it would be acceptable for me not to do so? Personally, I feel like it would be worth at least a few meetups to see how things go. You're a different person now than you were then, and they're likely different people now too. You know you don't need them in your life, but you may find that being around them enhances your life in some way. Or you may find that being around them brings only negative feelings. Just because you give it a try doesn't mean you have to keep them in your life if you don't want to. If you don't, you'll always have a nagging what if feeling. That's been one of my main thoughts. I don't want to regret not doing it in 5 or 10 years just because I don't want to know. I've enjoyed having conversations with my mom, but I've never really seen eye to eye with the others. It's a difficult one. Before the fight, in what ways was your relationship with your family rocky? Not that you have to go into detail or anything, of course. I ask because it sounds like some of their actions or behaviors leading up to the fight weren't of the best nature either. Have they accepted responsibility for their roles in what happened and apologized? Or from their perspective, is this all 100% on you and you're the villain that they are graciously providing another chance to? Also, kudos for pulling yourself out of a bad situation. I know that that's extremely difficult to do. They were always quite overbearing when I was younger. You could say overprotective or repressive depending on how you looked at it. By the time I was about 15 or 16, they couldn't really stop me from doing things anymore. And I started doing things that went against their values, which caused friction, especially between me and my father. So, for example, they were strong believers in no sex before marriage. Then I got caught with a girl when I was 16, and he barely spoke to me for about a month. They do probably see it as a gracious another chance. That's the impression I get off them, at least. You are not obligated to reestablish contact with them, but also consider the fact that the last time you had anything to do with them, you were still a child. Teen years are always rocky. Obviously more for you than most, but you're not a kid anymore. That doesn't mean you need to rebuild relationships. Just that any relationships you do build will be completely different. You also have the option of pulling back at any point. You could try meeting up and seeing how it goes. You could maybe only see them a few times a year. It's not an all or nothing situation. You can work out how involved you'd like to be with them, which includes maintaining the status quo. Family relationships can be tricky, especially with a rocky foundation and conflicting values. But Opie seems to understand that whatever happened before was mostly his fault and he was still able to rise above it on his own. I'm not sure if he should meet his family because he seems uncomfortable with the idea. But we'll see what happens in part 2 of this video for the update. I'll see you there. And if you like this video, please consider giving us a like and subscribing to our channel. Bye!